far-right conservative activist, Dinesh D'souza, has, put out an anti-black tweet on Twitter. And it's not really surprising coming from Dinesh D'souza, who I would say is one of the leading racist individuals, intellectual racist individuals in the conservative movement. Whenever you need someone to be racist and that person to be a person of color, the Republican Party has turned to Dinesh D'souza. Now, let's talk about the tweet a little bit. Then we'll circle back to Dinesh D'souza and why I don't like modern day conservatism, because it does this type of bullshit. The tweet itself, we don't even know if it had anything to do with race, because he doesn't provide context. Dinesh D'souza, you're supposed to be a heavyweight intellectual scholar. If you had done something like that and provided it to me, I would say that that's very sloppy. And please go provide some more context. Let me tell you what I mean by that. He sent out a tweet that said, "So much for diversity." And attached to the tweet is a video of multiple black women fighting a white woman. Now, I don't know what the hell the context of that is, because you just had at the Buffalo and the St. Louis Rams game, two individuals outside after the game, chasing after each other, throwing punches on the street. If I had posted that on social media, my social media, and said, typical American behavior, he would have said, what's the context? You're disparaging Americans. And he would have been right. You post up a video of women fighting each other, and you turn to race instantly. But this is the party that doesn't see color. Remember, they always say liberals use race. They're race baby. Race hustlers. You know. But Dinesh D'souza, underneath his post, his tweet, had so many conservative white Americans saying these are animals. And you know they weren't talking about the white woman. They were only talking about the black man. So many conservative white Americans just commentating on a video. None of them asked for the context. not the comments that I read. Now, let's get to the type of person Dinesh D'souza is. Because he does this type of shit all the time. And I'm going to expose just what type of magic trick he does. So no one else gets fooled by it. He's a documentarian, if you can call what he does documentarian work. In a nutshell, what I consider his work to be is fraudulent. Because what he does, and he's masterful at this, is he presents a narrative without any proper context and distorts the narrative to twist and shape it into the narrative that he wants to create. Masterful. Really is. Like I said, he's an intellectual conservative scholar. But he does really sloppy work. And I'm going to tell you why it's sloppy. The video that he shared on Twitter was heavily edited. Dinesh, you shouldn't share videos that are heavily edited. I don't know if you edited the video. See, I would be sloppy to say Dinesh edited the video. So then he can say, I didn't edit it. I don't know if you edited the video, Dinesh, or the video was edited that you submitted and posted. But the video is edited, Dinesh. And I've seen the full video. So you ought to pull that down. Because what happens is, one of the black women is walking up to the white girl or the white woman. And the white woman sticks out her arms and slaps her in the face. And then the black woman starts punching her. Your video, Dinesh, only shows the punches. You missed the slap that instigated the punch. If I'm walking up to someone and they stick out their arm and slap me in the face with their hand, I'm liable to punch them too. Because they've assaulted me first. So Dinesh, you missed the part where the white woman assaulted the black woman first and foremost. You only put up a video of the punches that the black woman was punching the white woman. And then you said so much for diversity. You made it about race. They could have been fighting about 1,000,000 things in an airport. The video was from an airport. We don't know what these women were fighting about. But Dinesh D'souza, he knew it was about diversity. They got into a brawl about diversity. Sounds like something stupid Dinesh D'souza would do. Now, let's tell you the type of person Dinesh D'souza is. This is a psychological profile, after all. I have no way of knowing this for sure, but I surmise this is the case, based off of a history and pattern. Many of you might not remember, but Dinesh D'souza was a fierce critic of President-elect and then President Barack Obama. Fierce critic. Some of his criticisms of Barack Obama couldn't be well confirmed. He often would criticize Barack Obama for being a Muslim, but pretending to be a Christian. He oftentimes would criticize Barack Obama for being a Marxist communist with no proof. So he now often has a grudge against the former president because the IRS determined that he was doing some wire fraud and hadn't paid his taxes. And so he was prosecuted and went to prison. So technically, Dinesh D'souza is an ex-felon, technically. And his ire against the government and Barack Obama has only grown. And now that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are president and vice president, his ire has exacerbated. He recently did a documentary called 2000 Mules, and is often cited by the MAGA conservative online people as proof and evidence that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. Now, in the documentary, which I have not watched, many people have said that no evidence exists. One such person who I think would know a little bit about whether the evidence existed or not is the former Attorney General of the United States. Did you see what he said in the January 6th committee hearings on video? They asked him about the 2000 Mules and the claims that Dinesh D'souza made in his documentary. And the former Attorney General, William Barr, said that it was complete bullshit. His words, not mine. He said they investigated all of those claims, conspiracies that Dinesh D'souza brings up. Really, his documentary is a slew of internet conspiracies brought together in video format. That's what he did. That was his work. Look, I'm not criticizing documentarians and how you do documentary work. But pulling conspiracy theories from the internet and narrating, it's not really going to win at the Sundance Festival. I'm just saying. He's always pissed off that his documentaries don't make these huge festivals and win awards. One, your documentary work is plagiarized from the internet, conspiracies from the internet, narrated by you. There's better documentarians, is what I'm trying to say, in a nice way. So, that's the work that he does. So it's no surprise that he pulls something like this on Twitter. You think I'm going to listen to a person about a documentary supposedly alleging mass voter fraud when they put up heavily edited videos on Twitter? If you do that on Twitter, that's the same shit he'll do in his documentaries. You know, I think the crux of the matter is this. Dinesh D'souza thinks that he should have been president. His whole rub or stick with Barack Obama was he's more intellectually wittier than Barack Obama. He should have been the first person of color to be president in America. Because he's been doing all of the white nationalist work for decades in this country. And he was really jealous and envious every day that Barack Obama was president and that he wasn't. That's what I really think it boils down with a person like Dinesh D'souza. A miserable scumbag. Racist. To the core. To the core. Dinesh D'souza is a racist. Oh, yes, he is. Every chance he gets, he attacks something that's beneficial to the society. He has a problem with diversity. Well, wait a minute. You're an immigrant from India. That's a diversity story. So if you attack diversity, you might as well be saying that your story shouldn't even have happened in and of itself. Oh, I guess people have to be diverse and think one way. They must be conservative. You hear that all the time. The immigrants coming up from the border in South America, they're just coming here because they're going to vote Democrat. You hear that shit. And I'm like, wait a minute. First off, how do you know that? They could have been conservative back in Mexico. They could have been conservative in Guatemala. You know they have conservatism in those countries too. But it's just this foregone conclusion that those people are going to vote Democrat because they're minorities. But Dinesh D'souza always raises his hand, makes sure he lets the other people know, I'm not like them. I'm like you. And so I get it. That's who butters his biscuits. White nationalist males who are always angry. Dinesh D'souza knows who's providing his mortgage on his mansion, who provides his lavish meals each night. He knows. That's white nationalist money. And so he's got to keep feeding the red meat. And plus he doesn't mind because he doesn't see himself as a minority. He's an American. You know, I wouldn't spend 2 seconds watching any of his documentaries, let alone finding out what he does on Twitter. But I thought it was important to present the narrative. This is what conservatives do all the time. Go back to Black Lives Matter in 2020. One of the events that set off the whole shift in how Americans looked at Black Lives Matter was distortion. You had Michael Cernovich and the conservative alt-right all run to Minneapolis, supposedly chronicling the protests of the lynching of George Floyd. That's what they were supposedly doing, chronicalizing. No, they already had an agenda, which was to distort whatever was happening at the Black Lives Matter protests. And they came upon an interesting video. There were people jumping all over a big, huge semi-gas truck. And the conservative internet went wild. They said, look at these savages. This is what Black Lives Matter does to you. This is what they want to bring to your community. But what they didn't tell you was that that huge, big semi-truck at 2:30 in the afternoon, when the bridge was full of men, women, and children marching for racial justice after the lynching of George Floyd, that big semi-truck came at full speed, trying to plow into the people on the bridge. And that the people who jumped onto the semi-truck did so to avoid being hit and murdered by the driver. And some jumped onto the semi-truck to try to grab the driver out of the truck to minimize any deaths or injuries. But that's not what Michael Cernovich and the alt-right conservative media presented to the American public. Now is it? They've been doing this forever. You can go all the way back to Birth of a Nation and how they portrayed and stigmatized and created fear about blackness in this country. So Dinesh, you're only doing something that's already been done and continues to be done since 1776. Maybe that's why they want to restore 1776 again. I think it's more like being racist again. I think that's the only thing they really truly want to restore in this country.